I just love the sunrise in spring. It's the perfect time to sit down, have a cup of coffee, and write out a to-do list. Today I just need to be watering the trees, watering in all the spring plants, and building a no-dig garden bed. You can see I'm kind of walking through that area right now, actually on my way to get the eggs from the chickens. That's the first chore in the morning. So you can see there's a piece of cardboard next to the stones on the path right there. That's where we're going to be putting in the no-dig beds a little later today. It's so windy here in the spring. Sometimes it's a little bit of an adventure. So I'm just peeking in to see how many we have at this point in the day. All of our chickens seem to lay eggs whenever they feel like it. So we can collect some in the morning, we can collect some in the afternoon, really any time of the day. There could be something hidden in there for us. I've been putting them in my pocket. I should probably get something more official like a basket so that we don't have any accidents, but it's been working out fine so far. Here I'm watering the fruit trees. You can see they're surrounded by lawn, which is not ideal. Eventually, it's my plan to get rid of the lawn in this area and have the trees surrounded by all kinds of beneficial plants. I'm going to have garlic in here, lupin, have a real permaculture system where the plants are benefiting each other. I'm not sure what the best way is going to be to go about that. If we should do a no-dig situation. I don't really want to disturb the roots that we're working so hard on growing here, so that's probably what we'll end up doing, but something for another time. It's good to have dreams and something to look forward to. I do really want to be healing the soil in this area. It's pretty full of clay, so it just kind of doesn't have the best drainage in the world. As I water, I can see it all fill up and create a little puddle before it all sinks into the soil. But I do need to get that grass back from encroaching over those roots. Here I'm watering in the first half of our flower and herbal tea garden that we'll be finishing today. There's all kinds of things like mint and chocolate mint, calendula. Those are already growing in the soil. Chamomile, I want to add some lavender and some other things as it gets warmer. The reason I want to plant all edibles there is because our kids spend a lot of time out there. It's right against the chicken fence. I just want the things that are growing back in the backyard to be things that are snackable. And then I can really just save the space for all of the especially beautiful but more toxic things like everything that's growing from bulbs, my tulips, my hyacinths, my dahlias, everything that I want to have that's just full of color for the front garden. And you can see the next video I make will probably be weeding and getting things down on the ground to cover the soil up there because it's getting a little bare after everything we put in. The area I'm working on right now, I'm watering in our berries. I just finished weeding and mulching those. They're coming back, so we've got 2 blackberries and about 8 raspberries of different varieties growing. They bear for us, or they will bear all season. We've got enough varieties all the way through August. We have our fall bearing raspberries in here too, and the plan eventually is to expand this area and get 2 more rows going of berries, which still is probably not going to be enough to eat our family. We eat berries like it's going out of style, especially the kids love to eat berries, but we can't really ask for a healthier snack, so we're good with that, and we're going to grow more of it. Here I'm watering the raised beds. They've got things like shelling peas, carrots, parsnips, lettuces, chards. Our potatoes are in these. Basically, we put everything in these that we could possibly put in the ground as early as we could put it to try to extend our season and have a spring harvest before we pull out some of them and leave the rest in the ground, the things that take a little bit longer to mature to get our summer garden growing. We put these raised beds in last year, and we were planning on building our own, but at the time, the cost of lumber, it was actually about the same to buy these kits. So very, very pregnant me and my daughter put together all of these raised beds, and we had help to fill them with soil, but we filled them with a little mix of topsoil and compost, which if I had to do it all over again, I would just do it with the compost because I was stuck trying to work with some of our very clay soil. Oh, the kids are talking to me. I'm talking to them there. The beds are holding up really well. I'm very pleased with them. They're part of the plan to extend our season. Having that little extra above the ground actually warms the soil a little bit more, so it helps to keep things alive. It helps to also hold some of this moisture in. I don't have to water these beds nearly as much as I have to water the back gardens. There's very, very shallow soil there, which next year it should be a little bit better, but right now it's just what we've put on top of the cardboard, and until that cardboard breaks down, it's going to be a lot of extra watering. We do have irrigation set up in these beds, but it's still cold, it's still spring, and we are still having frosts and even some freezes, so they're just not, they haven't turned the irrigation back on yet, which is why I am watering these, and also why these are covered up. So we made these hoop houses to keep things from getting too frosty. Everything that's in here is pretty cold tolerant, but there are some lettuces and some things that are a little bit delicate that I want to protect. So that's why we have them covered up. I'm opening these up so that I can get in there and water them. And the second one, it's still attached with staples to the 2x3 that we used, and that helps make it a little easier to cover and uncover because it's all stays attached all at once. The wind actually has blown most of them apart. We hit some kind of violent winds in spring. So what we actually did is bought those clips that you can see, those orange and black clips. We got a bunch of them off of Amazon for I think $10, and those hold the plastic really well. They're the perfect size. My husband found those for us. He is a genius, and this garden would never function without his input and little helps and ideas like that, because those clips are not something I would have thought of. I would have just been stapling and restapling onto those same boards over and over again. And speaking of my husband's input, he has pointed out these trellises that I made with things that we had laying around from past gardens are looking really sad. And so he had the idea to get the ones that you see in the very back, the white ones that have the little levels on them. We're going to have to replace all the trellises I built because they are very sad and saggy and really not capable of doing the job. I'm not even sure they could be called trellis at this point. So we'll be replacing those sometime in a future video. So if you're looking to build your own DIY trellis on the cheap, look out for that. Here I'm just getting all the peas watered in. There's peas, carrots, and parsnips, and a few little lettuces in this box. This is where our tomatoes are going to be going this year, and the reason I wanted to plant tons and tons of peas this year is because we didn't really make it to the kitchen with the peas last year. We just ate all of them off the vine, which was so much fun, so delightful. It was very prolific growing. We just didn't have enough plants, and so I've tripled the amount of sweet pea plants that we have for the year. But I also wanted specifically to put them in this garden bed where we're going to be growing the tomatoes because they put nitrogen and nutrients back into the soil. My garden pest. I think cats and toddlers are my biggest garden pests. I'm just explaining to him that this is where our food grows, trying to get him to stay out of the in-ground gardens. You know, the raised garden beds, those have a pretty clear wall separating them from walkable spaces. It's a little bit harder of a concept for toddlers to get. He'll get it eventually. But like I said, I'm having to water so much more back here just to keep things alive because that soil depth is almost non-existent in some places. We tried to level out the slope that goes down towards this canal. So the land is ours all the way up to the canal, but there has to be a roadway. There's an easement in the back for the equipment trucks to get through and to do the maintenance on that canal. So I want to keep a good, healthy buffer between anything I'm growing and where those tracks might roll through. And everything back here is basically just a massive weed garden full of noxious weeds, puncture vine, and it was kind of a nightmare when we first moved in, and we've done a lot to heal the soil back here. So the hope is that growing our food back here, putting down these wood chips, it's really going to change the area that we have and choke out those weeds and hopefully provide some more beneficial plants and food for our family. And as things get warmer, I'm really looking forward to filling all the margins with nasturtiums and zinnias and marigolds and alyssum. Not only will these provide color and beauty to our garden and to our neighbors, but they're actually really beneficial to the vegetable garden. They pull in pollinators. The nasturtium will actually attract some of the less desirable bugs into themselves and distract them from taking over our food plants. And the marigolds actually put something down into the soil that acts as a natural pesticide that lasts even after they're not even in the garden anymore. So those are some of the great benefits of having flowers around, in addition to just the joy of having the beautiful colors that I cannot wait to see popping through this garden. And of course, here he is, still stepping on my garden. Some lessons take time to learn. You can actually see one of my lessons is spraying out the top of our watering hose right there. The top of it actually got deformed by the last freeze. It got left, and we've been really, really careful with it, but it got left out and deformed the whole head of it. It still functions, just lesson learned for me. Here I'm putting in the other side of our no-dig flower and herbal tea garden. So here I'm just laying down the cardboard, and I'm going to be brushing the soil over the top of it, and there'll be a little path in the middle where the stepping stones are. So I'm just lifting up the stone and setting the cardboard underneath it so it won't blow away. It'll stay in place, and then I'm going to dump the soil on over the top of it. It would have been a lot cheaper just to get a giant haul of compost sort of dropped off in the back of our property. If you're looking to save money, definitely look into getting it delivered in bulk. It would have been a lot cheaper to shovel and use the wheelbarrow. At the time that I was planning this garden, I didn't really plan out as carefully as I should have exactly how much soil I was going to be bringing in or compost. So I would definitely get that delivered in bulk next time. Here I'm laying down the second box, and I see I should have taken off that sticky label. So the cardboard will break down completely, and it's just going to go right back into the soil. The earthworms love it. But if there's any tape on the boxes or stickers, anything like that, you definitely don't want to have boxes that have paint on them, that are shiny. And you just want to lay it down and overlap them. You can see it's not the full length of two of them, because you want to make sure that there's no gaps. Otherwise, all of the grass and then the weeds are just going to grow straight up through. They're going to seek that light, they're going to find it, and they're going to grow straight up through. That's exactly what happened with my berry patch that you can see behind where I'm laying out this soil. We put that in last year, and there were just so many gaps. I was pregnant. I didn't weed once in the entire year that those berries have been in the ground. I just kind of let it be. Well, I went back and I weeded finally, and it took me probably close to 3 hours to get all of the grass out of there, which I guess 3 hours is not so bad for a year of growing weeds, but I definitely went back and mulched everything, covered some gaps, because I don't want to be doing that again. So I'm spreading out the soil with my feet instead of a rake, because when I used rakes, the tines kept pulling up the cardboard and shifting it more than I wanted to. And I just found that I could be a little bit more precise, just kind of stomping around and shuffling everything exactly where I wanted it to be. This bed is not as deep as it should be. It should be about 6 inches of compost. So as I plant, I may go back and add some things, but right now I'm just putting enough dirt down so that it's not going to blow away and the cardboard can start to break down and kill the grass before I'm ready to start planting seeds and some of the starts that I have going in the garage that are going to go in here. So I'm coming back over here with another box to go under the stones. I wasn't going to do that. I was just going to let the grass kind of grow up between the paths because I didn't want the gate to be swinging over plants and everything like that. But after doing all of the weeding in the berries, I decided better safe than sorry. I would rather just stamp this grass out now and not have to deal with as much of it throughout the year growing up and blocking out all of the flowers and food and herbs and things that I really want to see growing in here. I suppose I should be wearing gardening gloves for this project. I don't think that I have had clean fingernails since I started gardening this spring. But then again, soil has all kinds of beneficial microbes. It's so good for your microbiome just to get your fingers in the soil. I'm not kidding. I mean, people have known that garden is a stress reliever forever, but now we finally have the scientific backing to understand the mechanism, and it turns out that getting your hands dirty, going out in the soil, the microbes there actually have the same effect on your brain as some of the SSRIs, the medications that they use to treat anxiety and depression. So it actually is incredibly beneficial for your health, not just your physical health, but your mental health, to be outside in the sunshine, getting the vitamin D, working on the garden. These are real benefits to your mental health to be working the soil in this way. Here I'm just laying down the wood chips we got from our chip drop. If you haven't heard of chip drop, it's an amazing service. So it allows an arborist to come directly to your property and leave you basically an entire tree or two or several in the form of wood chips. And that's everything all chipped up. It's so great for your soil and it makes beautiful paths. You do have to contend with, sticks and leaves and stuff. It's not garden store variety dyed wood chips. This is the real deal. To me, that's even better. That's a plus. So this path is not at all centered, and like everything here in our little backyard, it's not all about the aesthetics. I do want it to be beautiful, but it also needs to be functional. And if this were to be centered where the gate is, we would just have to step off of the path to open that latch and swing open the gate to get the eggs. It's just not something that's practical. So my hope is by creating a little bit of a curve, working with some more natural edges, that it won't look too off, it won't look too strange, that it's not centered directly in the middle of the gate. And I've got my helper here directing my paths, commenting. He's having a little juice cocktail, sparkling water and orange juice, getting his vitamin C and D, playing outside. And wait for it. He's back, cruising around the backyard. So I'm just clearing off the tops of these stepping stones, these pavers, getting the path really precisely where I want it. Things will bleed over, things will need backfilling. as we get rain, as we use this space, it is functional. It is a family space. So I don't expect it to be perfect by any means. I do expect it to be a little bit natural. And there you have it. Our herb and flower garden is ready for planting, and we have a path to get our eggs every morning.